Hey everyone, welcome to this video. In today's video, we're going to be going over an extremely effective self-awareness tool to remedy any type of emotional eating issue. I have found this self-awareness tool to be extremely valuable for my own personal development in recovering from emotional eating issues and a binge eating issue. And I've also used this tool with my clients, and they also have found it to be extremely effective. And many have used this tool as a stepping stone for overcoming emotional eating issues. I call this self-awareness tool checking in with your wants. And what you're going to do is ask yourself 2 questions before you eat anything. And I really mean anything. Before you sit down for a meal, before you sit down and eat a snack, if you're about to have an emotional eating episode, if you're about to binge eat, it doesn't matter what you're going to eat, whether you're in public or in private. In your mind and in your heart, you're going to ask yourself these 2 questions. And these questions are, 1, what do I really want right now? And 2, is this nourishing? Before we understand what the purpose behind these questions are, I want to just discuss a few criteria that are really necessary in order to make these questions even effective. One criteria is that you give yourself permission and accept what it is that you've already decided to eat. So for example, if you're about to binge eat or if you're about to emotionally eat, within yourself, within your heart, within your mind, you're going to have to get to a place of acceptance and say, this is what I've decided to eat, and I give myself full permission to eat it. The reason why that's necessary is because if you're in a state of resistance, if you're operating from a mindset of, well, I shouldn't be eating this, right? That should voice that we all recognize that we have inside of ourselves. If I stay in that mindset of should, I'm not going to be able to listen or recognize the answer to the question of what do I really want right now. So while you're practicing the self-awareness tool, recognize that you're going to have to give yourself full acceptance of whatever it is that you're going to be eating and take should out of the equation. Anytime I hear someone using the word should, I know that what they're essentially doing is denying the self. And really what we want to do is we want to tap into the self, see what the self wants, and accept the self. So during the self-development exercise, the self-awareness tool, you're going to want to accept what it is that you're about to be eating. Another criteria is that we ask this question at the beginning of our food consumption. So either right before we start eating or right when we've already started eating. And the reason why we do this is because food represents security. It represents safety. And most of the time we're eating because we're trying to avoid what it is that we truly want. So if we give ourselves that sense of security, that safety, that food, then that inner voice that's trying to resist is now calmed down. And then you have that answer available to you as to what it is that I truly want right now. The next criteria is that we ask ourselves what we want rather than what we need. Now, sometimes I do interchange these words, and I'm sure that I already have in this video, but the key is that we ask ourselves what we want rather than what we need. And the reason why is pure psychology. What I've noticed is that people confuse need with necessity. So if it's not necessary for your survival, you might not feel like you need something. And that's simply not true. So I'd rather you connect with the word want. What is it that I truly want right now? And most of the time, people want what it is that they actually need, which actually leads me to my next criteria. So another criteria is that you want to focus on the essence of what you want rather than the form of what you want. So I'm going to use money as an example. Let's say the form of what I want is $1 million, right? But the essence of what I want is I want to feel capable. I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel secure. I want to feel acknowledged. So you want to ask yourself the essence of what you want rather than the form. And you have to be aware that when you ask yourself this question and you get an answer, you're then going to have to assess, well, is this the form of what I want or is this the essence of what I want? So for example, sometimes when I ask myself this question before I eat, sometimes the answer could be like, I really want rest right now, or oh, I really need to feel loved right now, or oh, I just want to feel really capable right now, or oh, I just want to feel heard and acknowledged right now. I'm not looking for the illustration of what that might look like. That would be the form of what I want. I'm not attaching myself to that. I'm instead connecting to what it is that I really feel like I need and want right now. Now the question is, why do I even ask myself this question? What do I want right now even have to do with overcoming emotional eating? So what I've noticed with emotional eaters, which let's face it, is a lot of people, is that they don't let themselves connect to what it is that they want because they don't feel like they can get it. And since they can't get it, they replace that desire with food. So I'll illustrate this point with an example that I'm sure you could resonate with, which is I deserve, therefore I eat. So sometimes I hear my clients say something along the lines of, well, I worked really hard and so therefore I deserve to eat XYZ. Or it's been a really hard time right now, it's been a really hard month and so therefore I deserve to eat XYZ. This feeling of deserving. So what I hear when I hear people say that is, well, I really deserved something else, but I couldn't get it, so I chose food instead, right? Does that resonate? Can you look back at the times of your life where you gave yourself something, but you really wanted something else instead? Sometimes it's really hard to connect to those moments because you don't even think that you could get what it is that you want, so you don't even let yourself connect to what it is that you want. And that's the whole purpose behind this exercise, is reconnecting to what it is that you want. Because the more connected you are to what it is that you want, the less likely you're going to replace that desire with food. So my next point is a little bit of a bubble burster, but I don't mean to burst your bubble. What I really want to do is empower you with an observation that I've made. My observation is that most of the time people don't connect to what it is that they want because they don't feel like they have the power to execute it, right? They want to feel capable at work. They want to make a lot of money. They want to lose weight, but they don't feel like they have what it takes to actually accomplish what it is that they want. What I'm here to tell you is that I want you to disconnect from your personal power for this self-awareness tool. I'm sure that you're completely capable. You're accomplished, you're powerful, you're strong. I have no doubt, I have complete faith in you. But that's not what's necessary right now. I don't need for you to act. I need for you to become self-aware. So I want you to connect to what it is that you want without any attachment of actualizing. Because the reality is that personal power comes after you're really seated down in the seat of what it is that you want. So I want you to become self-aware. I want you to connect to what you want without any feeling of obligation that now I have to execute, now I have to act. Because you'll see that that will organically and naturally happen after the fact without force, and it will happen easily, because that's essentially what we want. We want to be connected to what it is that we want. We want to have the ability to execute it, and we want it to be natural rather than forced. So my suggestion again is disconnect from your personal power. It's not about what it is that you need to actualize. It's about becoming self-aware. And when you become self-aware, you will get your power. You will see. It'll happen naturally, I promise. So now the next question is this nourishing for me? So as you're eating and you ask yourself what it is that you want, and you've connected to the answer and you become self-aware, now you ask yourself the question of, is this nourishing? Remember that necessity does not equal nourishment. Our food nourishes our mind, our body, and our soul. So disregard this picture-perfect idea of what you should be eating and connect to the food that you actually have in front of you and ask yourself this question. Is this nourishing? Is this food nourishing for my mind? Is this nourishing for my body? Is this nourishing for my soul? So now that you've disconnected from this idea that food is purely for necessity, now you can ask yourself, is this food nourishing for my whole self? And the criteria for this is that you remove all should and all judgment from the equation. We do not accept the concept of, well, I should be eating this. Because again, when you're in the state of should, you're in a state of resistance and you're not going to be able to connect to the answer. Sometimes a bowl of potato chips is nourishing and sometimes it's not. Sometimes a nice big salad is nourishing and sometimes it's not. That's right, a nutritionist just said that. We don't want to be chained to this concept of should. So remember, one of the criteria is that you give yourself complete permission to eat whatever it is that you're eating, because that is what's going to give you the awareness. When you disconnect from the resistance, you will hear the answer inside of you, but it's a quiet answer. It's an answer that you have to really listen to in order to hear, and you can't hear that if you're in a state of resistance. So again, when you ask yourself the question, is this nourishing for me? Don't already have a preconceived notion of the answer. Listen to what your body and your heart and your mind are telling you. Now, the next criteria is if the answer is no, you do not need to act on it. Because remember, this self-awareness tool is about awareness. It's not about action. We want to motivate awareness. We don't want to feel the need to act. That will come organically and naturally later. Right now, all we want to do is connect to what it is that we want. And our food is going to represent whether or not we're giving ourselves what we want. So what you're going to notice over time is you're going to start becoming aware of how often you say no. So I ask myself the question, is this nourishing for me? And if I'm saying no over and over and over again, what I'm really noticing is that my behavior and my actions aren't a reflection of giving myself what it is that I want. So all I want you to do is become more and more aware of what answers you're getting. Is the answer yes? Is the answer no? How often is it yes? How often is it no? Because what you give yourself to eat is going to be a direct reflection of if you're giving yourself what it is that you want. The more times you hear the answer yes, the more you know that you're giving yourself what it is that you want. The more that you hear the answer no, you're essentially hearing, no, I'm not giving myself what it is that I truly want. And the reason why I can answer this question is, again, because I've detached from this notion of what I should be eating, right? So again, a bowl of potato chips can be extremely nourishing, and sometimes it's not. So if I'm in tune with that answer, then I can say, oh, this is not what I really want right now. Oh, okay, what did I really want again? Oh yeah, and this is not what I want? Oh, okay, I'm becoming aware. That's the idea. And we want to do it without judgment. It's not about acting, right? So I have no judgment of myself for not giving myself what it is that I want, because that's action oriented. All I'm doing is becoming self-aware. And you'll notice that as you become more and more and more self-aware with what it is that you want, your options will change. You will now recognize the choices that you have in front of you. You'll recognize that getting what you want is actually a choice. And you will then be able to make that choice more often than not. Sometimes that choice will be hard in the beginning, but slowly over time, as you're more and more connected to what it is that you want, you will make that choice more and more and more. And you'll notice your answers changing. So remember, this is a self-awareness tool to get really connected to what it is that you want. So slowly over time, what it is that you're eating will be a representation of what you want rather than a distraction. So my disclaimer with this video is, just like any self-awareness tool, it requires repetition and consistency in order to be effective. So before you sit down to eat anything, you want to ask yourself these two questions. And again, I mean anything. Whether you sit down for something that you plan to eat, an emotional eating episode, a binge eat, it doesn't matter. Because you're not going to be able to ask yourself this question while you're emotionally eating unless you become really good at asking yourself this question at the times that you felt you should be eating or you plan to eat. So your success with this self-awareness tool is going to be dependent on how consistent and how you repeat this exercise. And what I can sincerely guarantee to you is that if you are consistent and if you do repeat this exercise again at any time you eat, your relationship with food and yourself will change. This was unbelievably fundamental for my own recovery from emotional eating and binge eating. I could not have imagined my life without utilizing this tool, and I know that you will adopt it and you will succeed and you will have a different life because of it. So again, we want to ask ourselves these two questions. What do I really want right now? And is this nourishing? And we ask ourselves this question before we eat anything so that our relationship with food and ourselves and how we eat can change forever. Woo! We got to the end of the video. If you've liked this video, please give us a like, or better yet, subscribe, because we have so many more videos just like this one on how you can improve your life with nutrition and self-awareness. So please remember to implement the exercises that we discussed in this video so that you could have a better life.